In today's blockbuster special, it's the king of all monsters versus an alien army from Mars in a fight to determine who will rule the Earth. Can Godzilla defeat these ruthless invaders, or will they make him and our planet their new slaves? Let's find out. It was a Tuesday like any other when suddenly the sky ripped open and a massive UFO shaped like a disc descended to the surface. At that moment, every human on the planet looked up at the sky and wondered what was happening. From the ships poured forth hordes of ruthless-looking Martians with red skin and black eyes who wasted no time in attacking the human settlements. They were merciless and quick, making short work of entire cities and leaving nothing but smoking ruins in their wake. The United Nations made a desperate call for its member nations to unite and form an ad hoc task force to repel the invasion. With tanks, jets, and infantry divisions combined, they launched a counterattack against the invaders. But even though the humans fought bravely, their technology was no match for the advanced weapons wielded by the Martians. One of the enemy spaceships opened fire on New York City, and a gigantic beam of energy erupted from its hull, blasting straight into the city. In the blink of an eye, Manhattan was vaporized, along with the 20 million people who lived there. And so the sad tale of the human race began, or so it would seem. From the depths of the ocean came a mighty roar. It was the largest roar anyone had ever heard. When the earth trembled and the sea boiled, a colossal shape rose from the water. Rows of razor-sharp spines ran down its back and its jaws were filled with wicked teeth. As it let out another deafening roar, we learned the name of this terrible beast. It was Godzilla. The Martians seemed unfazed by the appearance of this enormous creature. One of them stepped forward and shouted across the battlefield, "Foolish Earth creature, you cannot defeat us on your own." Godzilla simply stared at them and replied in his deep booming voice, "I am Godzilla, and I am here to protect the Earth. No matter how many of you there are, I will defeat you all." Enraged by these words, the Martians attacked. Hundreds of them flew into the air, each armed with a strange weapon that looked like a giant crossbow. They fired at Godzilla, but he was too fast for them. He smashed them to pieces with his enormous fists and tossed their broken bodies aside like pieces of trash. As more and more Martians died, the ones still alive became increasingly nervous. Godzilla continued his rampage, smashing spaceships and killing hundreds of enemy soldiers until the survivors fled and hid in their main vessel. As they watched from afar, they could see Godzilla ripping apart their comrades, and knew that if he focused all his power on their ship, they would be doomed. They needed a way to stop him. Suddenly, one of the Martians had an idea. "It's risky, but it may just buy us enough time to get away." The others listened intently as he explained his idea. Godzilla didn't seem to notice anything unusual. He just kept roaring and stomping his feet, smashing everything around him. But then the ground began to shake. He felt something weird. Was it a trap? The vibrations coming from the earth were getting stronger, and Godzilla was starting to get worried. He stopped for a moment and looked around him. Suddenly, the ground beneath him split open, and a gigantic net shot out from the hole, wrapping itself around his legs. With a Herculean effort, Godzilla pulled himself free of the net and turned to face his attackers. His eyes flashed with anger, and he let out a deafening roar. The Martians had never seen a creature like this before. They were amazed by its strength and power. They had not expected such fierce resistance from an animal that looked so primitive. The Martians decided to use their prisoner to lure Godzilla into a trap. They attached several thick cables to the net and started pulling it in an attempt to drag Godzilla towards their ship. Godzilla struggled against the ropes, but they were too strong and he was being pulled closer and closer to the ship. The Martians cheered as they saw Godzilla nearing their vessel. Once he was close enough, they opened a large hole in the side of the ship and signaled for him to come inside. Godzilla hesitated for a moment, not sure what to do next, but the Martians kept pulling on the cables, urging him forward. Finally, Godzilla decided to follow them and entered the ship. Inside, the Martians had prepared a trap for Godzilla. The floor was covered with spikes, and as soon as Godzilla stepped onto it, they dropped a huge boulder on top of him. Godzilla roared in pain as the rock cracked his skull. He tried to get up, but the Martians kept dropping rocks on him until he was too injured to move. They approached the fallen creature and taunted him, saying, "You are finished now, Godzilla. We can finally take over this planet without any interference." Godzilla struggled to get up, but the pain was too much and he collapsed again. The Martians were about to celebrate their victory when suddenly the spaceship lurched violently. An alarm sounded. alerting them to a problem with their ship. They looked out the window and saw that Godzilla had used his atomic breath to destroy one of their engines. Without this engine, their ship wouldn't be able to fly and they would be trapped on the planet forever. The Martians panicked and started firing at Godzilla with their crossbows, but he was too strong for them. He smashed their weapons and killed many of them until only a few were left alive. They knew that there was no hope for them on this planet, and they had only one option left: escape. They fled in their small spaceships, leaving behind the dying Godzilla. But as they flew away, they could hear his faint roar echoing through the sky. Godzilla had won the battle, but the war was far from over. He was badly injured and knew that he couldn't rest for long. He had to get stronger if he wanted to stand a chance against the Martians. He returned to the ocean to recover, vowing to himself that he would not fail his home planet. Meanwhile, the Martians regrouped on their home planet of Mars and devised a new plan to defeat Godzilla. They created a new weapon, one that was even more powerful than the last. This time they wouldn't be caught off guard. They would crush Godzilla before he even had a chance to attack. The Martians were confident that this weapon would do the trick. They were wrong. When they returned to Earth, they found Godzilla waiting for them. He had fully recovered from his injuries and was more determined than ever to protect the planet. When the Martians fired their weapon at Godzilla, he simply smiled and unleashed his atomic breath. The weapon exploded and the Martians were defeated. Godzilla had saved the Earth once again. This time, however, the humans were ready. They had learned from the mistakes of the past and were prepared for the Martians' return. They had studied their technology and developed new weapons to counter their attacks. When the Martians landed on Earth, they were met with fierce resistance from the humans. Godzilla joined the humans in their fight against the Martians. Together, they were able to hold off the invaders and eventually drive them back to their ship. The Martians were demoralized and knew that they had been defeated. They fled back to Mars, vowing to never return. And so the Earth was saved once again. From that day on, Godzilla became a symbol of hope for the humans. He had shown them that no matter how powerful their enemies were, they could always count on him to help them. And as for the Martians, they learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate your enemy. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and comment. We need your support. Goodbye.